to give you some information which will be valuable in your lives. Today's topic is dementia, focusing on Alzheimer's disease. We would like to know and address your risks. Here is our agenda. We'll be talking about growing problem of Alzheimer's disease and dementia in today's world. We'll be talking about science of dementia. We will touch up the very fashionable topic of epigenetics and how it is related to Alzheimer's disease connection. We'll be talking about so-called diabetes type 3, what it is. Everybody heard of it, but there are mixed impressions of it. We'll be talking about lifestyle adjustments to address your risk. And of course, in the end of the presentation, we'll have Q&A session. Today's agenda sounds quite scientific, and let me explain why. As I'm a holistic nutritionist, I will be addressing topics of dementia and Alzheimer's disease through the lenses of holistic nutrition. Well, it sounds vague, yes? Have you ever dealt with holistic nutritionist? I know you dealt with cardiologist, rheumatologist, and other specialists, but how about holistic nutritionist? Can you type yes to the chat so we see how many people understand this connection? I see no. Oh, yes, we have some. Good. There are people who know that. I will suggest measures to reduce disease risk mostly through nutritional principles. But in order to formulate those principles, we need to understand person's situation, pathology, chemical and genetic processes that led to poor health. And as we learn what's wrong, have some evidence-based good results, we'll be able to address certain factors via nutrition. Here, we will understand nutrition as a sum total of what food and separate nutrients a person consumes. But before we continue, I have to, somehow it went bad. Sorry. Before we continue, can you still see my screen? Because I don't think so.
No.
No, okay. Somehow the screen sharing stopped. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we can see it. We can see it now.
Okay, thank you. But before we continue, I would like to provide disclaimer. Because recommendations provided by this presentation are derived from scientific research and statistical analysis and are for educational purposes only. And always, we recommend to see a physician or qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have about your medical condition. Never forego your medications because of something you heard or understood from this presentation. So here is our topic, dementia. What is dementia? By definition, dementia is a group of medical conditions characterized by a deterioration of cognitive function of the brain. Sounds good. Oh, sorry. This is a growing problem today. This is a problem which costs billions for the citizens to care for their loved one and themselves, and billions to the state to care or to provide health care. And this is the 6th cause of death in the United States currently. Annual growth of Alzheimer's disease, which is one type of dementia, is up to 15%. It is expected that 106 million plus people worldwide will be sick with Alzheimer's disease by 2050. Imagine this is 3 times population of Canada, just people sick with Alzheimer's disease. And more than 130 million people will be sick with dementia worldwide by 2050. This is awful. And even worse, that there is no cure and limited opportunity to prevent a slow deterioration of the brain, especially with Alzheimer's disease. A good thing it's not normal part of brain aging. I can talk about measures to prevent and finish it now, but I think we need to understand our brain better to understand the measures. Because if we just talk about eat this, not that, well, it's going to fall between the cracks. If we understand why, what our brain needs, what the processes they want to trigger, what are the processes we want to stop, if we understand that, it will be more easy to understand how to address them nutritionally. So in terms of dementia, dementia affects the brain. So let's talk about our brain. It has over 1 billion nerve cells called neurons. Each has an axon. I don't know if you can see my pointer. So each nerve, this is neuron. This is long projection called axon. And those are small projections called dendrites. Our cognitive processes are dependent on these little gaps between axons and dendrites. So there is a signal going back and forth here. It's electrochemical signal. Our life, our cognitive health depends on the health and the clarity of those 100 trillion synapses. And neurons also need to repair themselves. That's a lot of maintenance our brain needs to perform. How it's all happening. Unfortunately, in individuals with dementia, brain changes abnormally. There are devastating changes to neurons, which change, and also communication between neurons, axons, dendrites change. This reduced communication results in altered behavior and decline in thinking, memory, ability to perform regular tasks. Whole brain can be affected. For example, people who have frontal lobe here, frontal lobe affected, if there is a neuron communication disrupted in the frontal lobe, your executive function, this is a very long scientific word, will be affected. In layman terms, you won't be able to make plans or solve complex problems. And this is how life is, and that's what we want to avoid. Now, signs of dementia. That sounds scary, but I'm pretty sure at some point of your life, you heard those terms. I just want to connect the dots. I want you to understand that we have a light in the end of the tunnel, that good results are achievable, that life can be good in any stage of your life. So dementia. Dementia is an umbrella term used to describe a range of cognitive impairments. Dementia progresses through several stages, from almost normal life to severe impairment. First stage is preclinical, and it is not identifiable by any measurements, any markers, any symptoms, any questionnaires. This is silent phase. Then mild cognitive impairment comes. There will be some symptoms. And in the end, dementia progresses from mild to moderate to severe. And pretty much the brain shrinks. The brain can shrink by 140 grams if my memory does not deceive me. And this is the end of the human being. This is sad. Let's talk about symptoms. During the mild stage, symptoms may be forgetting details of recent events, becoming lost more easily, exhibiting poor judgment, being more irritable or upset, being rigid, so I cannot adapt to the change, losing interest in regular activities, and taking more time to grasp ideas. Moderate stage. Moderate stage, the following symptoms can occur: confusing friends and family members, becoming more repetitive. Wow, I am repeating terms today over and over again. Being confused about time and place, having increased difficulty communicating, becoming lost at home, and exhibiting inappropriate behaviors. Late stage. Late stage severe dementia is characterized by failing to recognize family and friends, difficulty walking, requiring help with personal care, losing ability to speak and understand, uncontrolled movements, and behavioral changes, for example, increased aggression. What types of dementia are around? The types of dementia are segregated, classified by pathologic changes. Since today's lecture is about Alzheimer's disease, we will be focusing on Alzheimer's disease pathological changes. But of course, you can research or ask me later on about changes, pathological changes which come with other types of dementia. Common forms of dementia include, first of all, Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is an irreversible condition characterized by abnormal protein deposits in the brain, referred to as plaques and tangles. It is cause of 50 to 75% of dementia cases. Remember, dementia is an umbrella term. It's not a disease. Alzheimer's disease, with its own pathology, is a disease. The disease is named after German psychiatrist and pathologist Alois Alzheimer, who first described it in 1906, 200 years ago only. It affects cortex and hippocampus. Later, the areas in cerebral cortex responsible for language, reasoning, and social behavior suffer. There is no proven by controlled studies ways to stop, slow, or prevent this disease. However, there are known risks of this disease, and these risks can be addressed, and that's what we are targeting today in our presentation. Another type of dementia is vascular dementia, which occurs when blood supply to the brain is blocked, depriving brain cells of oxygen. Our brain, which is 1.5 kilostops, it can consume up to 20%, it needs up to 20% of oxygen which we breathe in. So if you deprive brain from oxygen, of course, something can happen. This topic is especially important for me, as I suffer from severe asthma and COPD. There was a study in 25 years of cardiovascular risk factors, aging and dementia study, of 2,000 subjects, which proved that unfortunately, sufferers of asthma, COPD, and both combined, even if those diseases are controlled, suffer from different stages of vascular dementia. That's why I'm so concerned, and that's why this topic is so close to my heart. Actually, vascular dementia can be caused by different diseases of blood supply to the brain. For example, stroke or small blood vessels disease. Symptoms are specific to where the tissue is lost. For example, problems with episodic memory can be caused by infarct in hippocampus. And problems with executive function, we already spoke about executive function, can be caused by infarct in the frontal lobe. Another type of dementia is Lewy body dementia. It is characterized by abnormal protein deposits of alpha-synuclein proteins inside the brain's nerve cells. This is 10 to 25% of all dementia cases. And Lewy bodies can be seen in cerebral cortex, limbic system, and brain stem. Last but not least is frontotemporal dementia, which is a group of disorders affecting frontal and temporal lobes of the brain. Those changes are associated with personality and behavioral changes. It's less than 15% of cases. The frontal and temporal lobes shrink. Damage to the upper middle surfaces of frontal cortex is linked to becoming withdrawn and losing motivation. Damage to the front under surface is linked to losing inhibitions, meaning the person might make inappropriate comments. And finally, damage to the frontal lobes may also mean the person repeats the same word, phrase, or action over and over again. There are also mixed cases of dementia. Remember this pyramid, the gray area on top, less than 5% of all cases, and exact statistic is not known. So we are focusing on Alzheimer's disease, since Alzheimer's disease represents majority of cognitive impairment cases. So let's do deep dive into the pathological changes happening in this disease. Alzheimer's disease has a well-researched timeline, which is depicted in this slide. And according to Alzheimer's Society, the overall time span of disease development is about 15 years. If you notice that anything applies to you or your loved one, you need to get referral to a neurologist who specializes in dementia. Not all neurologists specialize in it. And they will perform further testing. Unfortunately, because people fear dementia, they tend not to self-report to avoid the diagnostics and any perceived embarrassment that may come from family or colleagues. They may go great lengths to cover up symptoms and may become defensive or protective when the topic is raised. Anyway, neurologists will be using some tools that are commonly detect cognitive impairment to rule out other causes of dementia, such as Parkinson's disease, brain tumors, and stroke. There is no consensus which tool is the best and which tool is the most accurate. And so it's up to neurologists to have his or her own preferences and apply the tools. Commonly used are questionnaires such as many mental status exam, and Montreal Cognitive Assessment. Montreal Cognitive Assessment has a high sensitivity to mild cognitive impairment. I believe everybody in this group at some point already had those tests, like when you have to draw the watch face, or you have to draw a cube, you have to remember words. It's not like neurologist is mocking you. It's very characteristic signs that your brain may be impaired. There are most scientific, well, for me, whatever you cannot measure reliably is not scientific, right? And there are more scientific tools which can show stage of Alzheimer's disease, stage of dementia. For example, magnetic resonance imaging use magnets and radio waves, and PET scans use a radioactive tracer to show how organ is functioning in real time. PET scans can detect cellular images in organs and tissues earlier than CT or MRI scans. Both produce still images of organs and body structures. DTI. DTI is diffusion tensor imaging in non-invasive way to investigate the structure of white matter. You probably, at some point of your life, heard about white matter, referred here and there. The signal in DTI is generated by differences in Brownian movement of the water molecules in the brain tissue. So Brownian movement is a random movement of water molecules in the brain. And of course, our brain has lots of water, and white matter is found in deeper tissues of the brain, subcortical. Axons, which are long projections of the neurons, have kind of covering called myelin, and they need to be surrounded by this coverment. And myelin gives the white matter its color. While the questionnaires may be a bit subjective, they're able to notice signs of mild cognitive impairments. Scientific tools such as neuroimaging can detect changes on later stages. One method, though, is exception. Cerebrospinal fluid, CFI, I believe it's called, cerebrospinal fluid may contain beta amyloid plaques, major proteins, or tau protein that assemble like distortion filaments in the neuron, and that can be used for early stages of Alzheimer's disease detection. I was talking about something called plaque. Everybody heard about plaque. So pathogenic signs occurring in Alzheimer's disease is extracellular amyloid plaques that aggregate around nerve cells, and intracellular neurofibrillary tangles. They lead to loss of synaptic communication and eventual nerve cell death. Let's start from the plaque, extracellular. They are formed outside of neurons. They are formed when insoluble beta amyloid proteins aggregate around nerve cells. Our body is supposed to eliminate and replace amyloid precursor protein that consists of 695 amino acids. So it has to assemble it to those amino acids, and our body consumes, metabolites, and reassemble whatever it needs. It's normal course of events. The protein forms in nerve cell walls all the time. Like it's cyclical process because neurons need to maintain themselves, neurons need to repair themselves, so they form the protein. Then for the most part, this protein is broken into soluble pieces that are easily removed. The issue arises when due to genetic or environmental or some other issues, enzymes cannot break the protein in the right way, and it's not soluble. So those aggregates called plaques occur. Even small clumps of beta amyloid proteins can block cell-to-cell signaling in the synapses. Another disruptor of communication between neurons is intracellular neurofibrillary tangles. They consist of tau proteins. It is a protein that helps stabilize the internal skeleton of neurons in the brain. They assemble into filaments. Those are filaments you can see inside within brain neurons. And they assemble also in tangles, also inside the neurons. And they lead to loss of synaptic communication, again, eventual nerve cell death. So in this picture, we see both. We see intracellular and extracellular problem. And this is very bad, very poor neuron which cannot communicate. Okay, so if I didn't scare you enough, let's proceed to the main topic of our presentation, risks and possibility of prevention. The risks are very well understood now, which is a good thing, with emphasis on genetic component, which is scary thing. The good thing is that genetic changes can be kept turned off epigenetically. Again, new word. Don't worry, I will explain what genetics means. Well, you know what genetic means and what epigenetic is related to genetics. So I want a little bit of break, and I want to see if everyone in this group ever heard about epigenetics. Appreciate if you can type yes in the chat group. No one. Wow. So, oh, yes. Yes, people heard of it. Yeah, because it's in the media every now and then, and well, yes, people heard of it. Good. So according to CDC, epigenetics is a study of how behaviors and environment can cause changes that affect the way our genes work. The system is actually quite transparent. Quite transparent indeed. Here is the difference. I try to summarize just for us to be comfortable to understand what the difference is. So our genes and genetic makeup, it's a reversible blueprint to construct our body. We get it at conception. Mom and dad gave it to us. We cannot change it. And our genetic makeup dictates which protein is made, but not when. Gene expression. When, how often, and which proteins are created from the genetic instructions within your genes. So again, let's keep two together. We have genes and we have gene expression. So this is a train and this is a train schedule. So the question is, who turns on the train schedule? Yes, we know who turns on the train schedule, and this is called epigenetic changes. So depending on the time of the year, there will be one schedule or another. So there is a big boss sitting in the, I don't know, somewhere in the high tower, which says this schedule or that schedule. And those are epigenetic changes, turning genes on and off under the influence of your environment and behaviors. Not all epigenetic changes are permanent. Some may be reversible. I'm not saying they all are reversible, some may be. Small example, smokers versus non-smokers versus former smokers. We all have gene called AHRR, if I'm not mistaken, And smokers tend to have less DNA methylation than non-smokers in this part of the gene. Again, new word, okay. So what's methylation? School chemistry 101. Methyl group is CH3, one atom of carbon and 3 atoms of hydrogen, which stick into the gene. And that's how the gene gets turned on and off. If a methyl group sticks to the gene is turned on. If it doesn't, the gene is not turned on. So smokers have less methylation, less methyl groups, which can stick to the good genes to turn them on. But when people stop smoking, this process can be reversed sometimes within a year. And within a year, those people who gave up smoking will have the same level of methylation as controls who never smoked. This is a very happy example. Unfortunately, with Alzheimer's disease, it's not that simple. The changes which happen to our genes under the influence of environment, epigenetic changes with Alzheimer's disease are not reversible. So as we age, we experience epigenetic influence over Alzheimer's disease risks. So what are those risks? Major risk factor is age. Okay, there is a question here. What are we going to do, Shamshan, with the question?
I think we'll take the question to the end.
Okay. Okay, so major risk factor is age. Multiple studies were conducted on risks. The largest one was Mirage study, which is more than 25 years and more than 15 years. And it evaluated association of genetic and non-genetic risk factors. It has 1,953 subjects with Alzheimer's disease in 2,093 the unaffected relatives. The study confirmed that genetics play an important role in pathogenesis of Alzheimer's disease. Familial Alzheimer's disease is associated with a dominant gene that causes early onset and rapid progression. And the gene this study identified was epsilon-4 allele of apolipoprotein E, ApoE gene. Again, new word, okay. Let me explain what dominant gene is. It's again probably from the school biology. So in genetics, dominance is the phenomenon of one variant of a gene on a chromosome masking and overriding another variant of the gene. So your father can have one gene, your mother have another gene, and your mother gene overrides. For example, if your father has blue eyes and your mother has brown eyes gene is dominant. So most likely you will have brown eyes. It works like this. So first variant is termed dominant and the second variant, the blue eyes, recessive. Allele in turn is the same sequence of nucleotides at the same planes in the same place of a long DNA molecule. So epsilon E allele means that there is certain sequence of nucleotides in the same place of the DNA molecule. That doesn't mean anything else. So ApoE gene, which was discovered by Mirage study, provides instruction for making protein called apolipoprotein E. This protein combines with fats in the body to form molecules called lipoproteins. And about those molecules, you probably heard in connection to diabetes. Back to our study. Familial Alzheimer's disease with dominant ApoE accounts for 5–10% of all Alzheimer's disease cases. It is characterized by an early onset of the disease. So the onset can happen at the age of 40 or even earlier. And until recently, it was denied. The possibility of this was denied. Unfortunately, that happens. The other 90–95% cases are sporadic with later onset. The ApoE allele is also a primary genetic risk for late onset of Alzheimer's disease. So let's stop here. Let's assume you have this gene. Does it mean that you're going to be sick with Alzheimer? No, it does not mean that. It means if you have one ApoE allele, you have 2 to 3 times greater the risk of those who do not have this gene. And even if you have 2 ApoE alleles, your risk is not 100%. It's about 8 to 12 times higher the risk of non-carriers. That means that you have to take better care of yourself than non-carriers, but it doesn't mean the disease will affect you inevitably. So what this gene dictates, we were talking about beta amyloid plaque. So if you have this ApoE gene, you are less efficient and effective in breaking down this beta amyloid plaque. You remember this picture with like shapeless tangles on the axons. So you are less effective to break those plaques. But it turned out that this gene has other functions. For example, a 2018 study on mice found that ApoE allele was associated with more pronounced cerebrovascular dysfunction after a high dose of glucose. It's on mice. They never performed this on people. What it means, your brain will turn off if you consume too much glucose. Another thing which recently was found, and this is kind of connecting our very scientific topic with something which is happening around us, that ApoE gene is also a marker of increased COVID-19 severity. So who turns off ApoE gene? Like we know that epigenetically gene can be turned on, turned off. So who does it? There is another gene. His name is MTHFR. And this gene regulates methylation in our bodies. So if you have your methylation normal, okay, you probably won't meet those problems. But if your gene is malfunctioning, then you have impaired detoxification, decreased production of choline, which leads to decreased production of acetylcholine, and this is precursor for your good mental condition. Disruption of other neurotransmitters, including dopamine and serotonin, and this is connection to depression, and elevated homocysteine, which is pretty much associated with cognitive decline and cardiovascular health. So everything in our bodies is very much connected. We cannot consider one single symptom without looking into the chain of events which are associated and led to this event. If I didn't scare you enough, there is 40 Alzheimer's disease associated risk alleles that have been found, and you see that 2 copies of ApoE are somewhere in the middle of the spectrum. So It's average number of people have it, and it causes average risk. There are genes which cause even higher risk of Alzheimer's disease, but not so many people are affected. So that's why if you go to neurologist and you talk to him or to her, it would be nice to know which genes you have, so you will be able to estimate severity of your risk. So if I didn't scare you, I hope I did not. Let's talk about genetics of epigenetics of Alzheimer's disease. So what is genetically? You are at higher risk of Alzheimer's disease if you're over age of 60, 65. So you have good genes, you live to 60, 65, and your risk increased. Well, everything changes, right? If you have immediate family history of Alzheimer's disease, if you had serious head injury, particularly repeated injuries like you play contact sports, if you are Hispanic or Black, those are factors pretty much you cannot change. And those are genetic factors. Or factors in between. You may experience some other health conditions which doctors sometimes call comorbidities. That's an awful word I hate. Such as heart disease, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. So we already spoke a little bit connection between Alzheimer's disease and heart disease. It can be governed by the same gene. Alzheimer's disease and diabetes is also affected by some gene. But if you have blood pressure, what relationship Alzheimer's disease and blood pressure, right? You would think about vascular dementia. There is a relationship. And actually, there was a study quite recently, it was published in 2023. Study was conducted on 57,000 of Medicare recipients in the USA. And those people had high blood pressure, confirmed with the doctor, and they were prescribed medications to deal with their blood pressure. There are several types of medication. There are medications which suppress angiotensins, and there are medications which support, stimulate angiotensins. So people who had stimulators of angiotensins have low risk of Alzheimer's disease by 16%. And those people who take those medications have low risk of vascular dementia by 18% compared to people who take blockers. I'm not talking about names of medication. I have a list. I got a list of those medications, so just contact me or we can talk during the Q&A session just to check your medication if your medication support to suppress. Other situations which can trigger your upper gene are diabetes, depression, elevated homocysteine, stroke, or if you're postmenopausal woman who took hormone replacement therapy after the age of 65. There was a big study on that, and unfortunately they confirmed. A good thing, there are factors, like there is such a rough list of the risk factors. You may feel helpless now. What can I do? There are modifiable risk factors that are conducive to Alzheimer's disease, and of course you can address them. For example, smoking cigarettes, sedentary lifestyle, overeating, poor sleep hygiene, poor nutrition, poor gut health. Those are risk factors which you can address and reverse. And if you're a woman, you have twice as high risk of Alzheimer's disease compared to men. That's sad, but we cannot change it. We just can be more careful about our health. Another hot topic today is diabetes type 3. It's not an officially accepted term in medicine. Your doctor will not give you this diagnosis. This being said, people on the internet are screaming about diabetes type 3. What it is about? It is about the fact that insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, diabetes type 2 may impair central insulin signaling processes. And then what happens? Accumulation of neurotoxin, neuronal stress, and neurodegeneration. The insulin in our body has several physiological functions. Emerging evidence from human and animal studies indicate that insulin also influences cerebral biogenetics, enhances synaptic viability, endangering spine formation, and increases turnover of neurotransmitters such as dopamine. So we can connect insulin to the incidence, levels of insulin, incidence of depression, and incidence of dementia. Poorly controlled blood sugar may increase risk of developing Alzheimer's. This relationship statistically is so strong that Alzheimer's disease was labeled as type 3 diabetes. It's not official term, but diabetic brain is very, very sad, as you can see in this picture. Okay, and here is the main purpose of the topic: diet as modifiable risk factor of Alzheimer's disease. In the beginning, we said that we see good things, which confirmed by observational studies. We call it our measures to address the risks. It was proved in the observational studies that addressing epigenetic risk factors slows down and reduces the risk of Alzheimer's disease onset. No control studies were conducted because it's unethical. Say one person is made to smoke, another person is made not to smoke, and they observe them in 25 years. Well, it's unethical, right? So we don't know, but we know for sure that it reduces the risk. Diet may be one of the most impactful epigenetic factors affecting onset of development of Alzheimer's disease. The diet keeps your guts, genes healthy. It means they will work as designed in what are known self-destruction programs. Like, for example, at some point, the methyl group can go to some gene which will affect self-destruction, so that the neurons will start destructing themselves. We don't want it, right? So one of the things which is close to my heart is gut, liver, brain axis. This is pretty much connection of everything in your body. So you'll notice at some point probably, and you can think about what you ate yesterday or the day before yesterday. After you ate something, you had a headache. How it happened? You ate here, and the headache is here. What happens? There is enteric nervous system which lines the gut lining, and there is a nerve which goes from your gut to your brain called vagus nerve. If you ate something which your enteric nervous system didn't like, which does not agree with your body, there is millions of reasons. There is a signal which goes through the vagus nerve to the brain which says no, and the brain gives you signal. You have headache, you know this food is not good for you. And the same with the liver health and gut health, microbiome which lives in your guts, the trillions of different bacteria living in your gut which affect how you live, how you feel, how you are able to produce energy. Now, this is topic for separate conversation, but this is pretty much confirmed with Alzheimer's disease. The health of your gut severely affects how your brain feels. And what to eat to reduce risk of Alzheimer? You probably have been expecting like huge list. I'm not going to give you huge list. I give you ideas, principle. And the main thing which up-to-date food to affect positively your risk and risk of onset and development of Alzheimer's disease is Mediterranean type diet with high fish consumption, omega-3 fatty acid, monounsaturated fats such as in olive oil, and increased consumption of non-starchy vegetables and fruit. And it's more likely that combination, synergy of those factors rather than one of them, like one specific food, that provide the highest degree of protection rather than any single dietary factor. Another thing which was found recently, it's funny, celery. That's why probably 2 or 3 years ago there was no celery on the shelves of the grocery stores because everybody ran to buy celery and protect themselves from Alzheimer. I don't know, they are so protected now, the celery is on the shelves again or not, I don't know. But there is a chemical compound called 3NB, which is responsible for the characteristic odor of celery. 3NB treatment significantly improves learning deficits as well as long-term and spatial memory, significantly reduce total cerebral beta amyloid plaque deposition, and lowered brain beta amyloid levels. And those are huge results, probably why people went to grocery stores buying this celery. Another thing is polyphenol found in grapes, grapeseed extract, and red wine. They had shown to prevent beta amyloid formation and promote disassembly of neurofibrillary tangles, like those tangles which we had seen inside the neuron. This is all considerations about diet. So let me reiterate: cold press extra virgin olive oil, vegetables, fruit, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. This is all good. And moderate consumption of animal source protein is okay, but just moderate. So what not to eat to get sick? That's also important. I would like to focus on saturated fats. They occur naturally in red meat and dairy products. It's also found in baked good and fried foods. Trans fats. Trans fats occur naturally in small amounts in red meat and dairy products. Trans fat can also be manufactured by adding hydrogen to vegetable oil to stabilize it and use in baking or as addition to margarine. Diet high in saturated fats and trans fats and low in dietary antioxidants may lead to increased serum and brain concentration of aluminum and transition metal ions that increase oxidative stress. What happens? Your brain suffers, your brain is oxygen deprived, neurons die. That's not what you want. Your body actually behaves like a nurse in the hospital. Have you ever? I'm pretty sure you've been to the hospital. You see the nurse and she conducts triage. Your body conducts triage to figure out what to detoxify and eliminate and what can wait. So detoxify, we don't need any fancy supplements, any fancy food, any fancy anything to remove harmful things from our body. Our body equipped by excellent detoxification system. But this system has limited capacity. So it may decide that some things need to be removed, detoxified, broken down, and some things can wait. For example, it can decide that consequences of alcohol and smoking need to be detoxified, and aluminum, which you got with your I don't know, dishes, from the cooking methods, can wait, or vice versa. You don't know. So you need to make sure that you need as low detoxification efforts as possible from your body. To this end, you need to reduce or eliminate completely consumption of alcohol, smoking, charcoal broiled meats due to the high level of toxic compounds. High protein diet, I spoke about it already. Environmental toxin like exhaust fumes, paint fumes, dioxin, pesticides. All sorts of aluminum, including antacid, pots and pans. So aluminum from your pots, from aluminum foil, leaches into the food, especially if you store food in those, and that can poison your brain. Okay, I hope I scared you enough. But there are some additional measures, lifestyle measures, which are proved, and by the way, with the numbers which are proved, they can reduce onset, and they can improve prognosis for Alzheimer's disease. And my pet peeve is moderate activity. Moderate activity promotes blood circulation and improves blood glucose stability. And now I'm going to talk about a study which was published after I agreed to give this presentation on January 9th. And this is a study about what turns on BDNF gene. BDNF gene is related to nerve growth factor, which means neurons can repair and regrow if you have BDNF gene in working order. And this study found, and the picture shows here, the effect of different measures. This study found that 6 minutes of high intensity exercise appeared to be the most efficient way to increase BDNF. Maybe there are other ways, but this happens the fastest. And also intermittent fasting and like total fasting, dry fasting were investigated as risk factor for Alzheimer's disease and precisely for BDNF gene. Unfortunately, there was no effect from fasting. It also proved that social connection with family and friends is a very important lifestyle factor which keeps your brain happy, alive, and keeps your genes functioning as designed. Another thing I was mentioning at some point, that quality of sleep can affect onset and prognosis of Alzheimer's disease. To this end, bright light therapy to normalize circadian rhythm, so the time you sleep and the time you are awake, also is very important and effective. Botanicals. There were like every day new articles come on the internet, this works, this doesn't. I want to focus on two, which were proved to be working. One of them is ginkgo biloba, which is proved to decrease mental decline in early stages of Alzheimer's disease. And another is curcumin. Curcumin had been shown to inhibit beta amyloid plaque and protect against age-related brain damage. The study was conducted in rural India, and the results actually were startling. They found that 4.4 times they have in rural India 4.4 times lower Alzheimer's disease incidence compared to the Americans of the same age. Why? Because those people use curcumin here and there. Now, if you run right now to the grocery store and start loading on curcumin, I want to give you some a word of caution. Curcumin can be hepatotoxic. It can poison your liver. So why don't you just start from the curcumin supplement rather than overloading? Like normal spice amount of on the food is fine, but if you overdo it, there is a risk for your liver, and there is a liver Alzheimer connection. So instead of getting some good results, you may really damage your health, which you don't want. And last but not least, supplements. Like I don't want to run a poll who uses supplements because everybody does. And I spoke to my dentist yesterday. He said that North America has the most expensive urine all over the world because, well, if you use supplement which your body doesn't need, it just goes through, well, your dollars pretty much goes through. Nevertheless, supplements mostly improve the symptoms and overall well-being, if those are the supplements your body needs. It's not proven that any supplement can delay Alzheimer's disease onset. Let me talk about some fish oil to address prevent inflammation. Coenzyme Q10 to prevent mitochondrial damage. Brain is the powerhouse. It needs to build, it needs to build, rebuild, destroy, it needs to send signals. It all energy dependent. Mitochondria are energy powerhouses of the cell, right? So your mitochondria are damaged, your body cannot produce enough energy, your brain declines and stuff like this, right? Bottom line, coenzyme Q10 to prevent mitochondrial damage. It's not to prevent Alzheimer's disease. That's all I want to say. Magnesium. Magnesium pretty much reduces aluminum absorption. If you are using deodorant which contains aluminum, if you are using aluminum pots and pans, use also a magnesium supplement to reduce your risk. Antioxidants. Mostly a combination of antioxidants of vitamin Z and C, especially for smokers, to reduce risk of dementia onset. What happens? They decrease free radical damage caused by toxic chain reaction in neuronal cells and help to inhibit dementia pathogenic changes. This is to affect onset risk a little bit. Next, vitamins B1 and B12 to improve cognitive function. B12 especially because 40% of people older than 65 have cobalamin vitamin B12 deficiency. This deficiency impairs nerve and cognitive function and even mimics Alzheimer's disease symptoms. And it can be easily monitored through a blood serum test and addressed via supplementation, and this test can be ordered by your family doctor. Zinc deficiency. Zinc deficiency was linked to Alzheimer's disease development in elderly. Supplementation had shown great results in improvement of cognitive function. Vitamin D supplementation. For 12 months, it may improve cognitive function and decrease beta-amyloid-related biomarkers. Majority of us live in the climate when we don't see sunshine. 3 days of sunshine in a month, that's how the weather in Toronto is. So we do need vitamin D one way or another. Other supplements. Other supplements may show mild therapeutic effect, but it is recommended to use them only under supervision of a healthcare provider to avoid dose toxicity and side effects. Why? There are studies, very, very long and extensive studies of medications your doctor prescribes. There are almost no studies on toxicity, side effects, and positive effects of the supplements. Anyone can go, well, with some paperwork, but anyone can go on the market and produce their supplements. And I don't know which one supplement comes today on the market. I can check, but every day new supplements show up. You don't know what you are buying, you don't know what you are consuming, so your condition should be monitored by your healthcare provider to make sure you don't incur more damage than you can sustain. Phosphatidylcholine. There are publications that phosphatidylcholine prevents Alzheimer's disease by preventing amyloid plaque and reducing activity of microglia. In other terms, those are housekeeping cells which just kill neurons in the brain. But there was no study whether increasing human choline intake throughout life produces benefit on cognitive agents or prevents Alzheimer's disease on humans. One promising thing this was conducted on mice, and it showed that on mice, not on human, phosphatidylcholine prevents Alzheimer's disease. Another thing is phosphatidylserine. Phosphatidylserine was used in Europe for 15 years to prevent memory loss and mental decline. Another supplement is L-acetyl-carnitine. What it does, it helps brain fatty acid transport and oxidation in mitochondria. And because mitochondria is brain powerhouse, it improves brain energy metabolism, energizes your brain so it can perform better. Testosterone. Low testosterone was independently associated with incidence of Alzheimer's disease, but I would recommend not to use this as a supplement just to prevent something. Consult your healthcare professional. Dihydroepiandrosterone, DHA. There was no study which proved positive effect on Alzheimer progression and onset. Actually, there was a study which proved it has no effect. But there is correlation. There were multiple studies which proved that DHA in patients with Alzheimer is lower than in normal controls. And by the way, the same kind of study was conducted on coenzyme Q10, and it shows that coenzyme Q10 levels in patients with Alzheimer is lower, but nobody proved that supplementation may affect progression, may affect your overall health, but not progression of the disease. And finally, melatonin, mostly to improve sleep in those with dementia. Well, if people didn't fall asleep during my lecture, they can play my lecture to fall asleep. But believe it or not, this completes my presentation today. Thank you so much for listening, and I would appreciate your questions and answers.
Wow, Larissa, you really scared me. I don't know about the others, but I totally lost. I'm totally lost.
Too bad we can repeat.
We do have a few questions on chat. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions you would like to ask, please raise your hand and we'll put you through. The first question is it hereditary?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So 25% of people who have 2 copies of genes most likely will be sick at some point of their time of their lives.
Okay. There is one question from My Wish, and she says, any link to depressive? I don't think she finished it. So maybe
yes.
Depression?
Yes, depression is a risk for Alzheimer's disease development. The connection point is somehow the genes which affect develop depression, low the neurotransmitters levels in the brain. So those neurotransmitters needed to for communication between synapses, like I've shown the picture. I will try to find it if you're still here with me. I think we have, yes. Where is synapse? Here. So what happened here is signal goes with the neurotransmitter. If there is not enough neurotransmitters, like in depression, cognitive declines happen.
Okay. There's another one which says, did you just say that genetics can be changed by environment?
No, that's not what I say. Let me find the slide. I think this one. This one? No, not this one. No, this one. No,
Genetics.
no, not even this one. Not even this one. Yeah, this one. This one, guy.
Genetics versus
Yes. So your genes are blueprint of your proteins. Like imagine the can with all proteins in your body standing on your table. And somebody has to regulate which one to pull it with each and every time moment, right? So genetic is just full of your proteins. Your environment says, pull this protein, pull that protein, turn on this gene or turn on this gene. That's what in our control. There is like, it's just tip of the iceberg, but it can change our lives.
Okay. I have two questions from the same person.
Mhm.
Does sunlight and massage help dementia patients? That's number one. Number two, if dementia patient lives in a 2-story house, what is your advice?
In terms of massage and sunlight, yes and yes. Massage promotes blood circulation and lymph circulation, which helps with detoxification. And sunlight affects, if the person is exposed to sunlight, the sleep-wake cycles regulated well. And if your circadian cycles, sleep-wake cycles are regulated, your progression is milder or doesn't happen. And second thing depends on, second question depends on the phase of the disease. If the movement is affected, I would say this is a risk factor.
Okay. There's one person who's looking for your recording, and we don't normally do that, but she also requested slides. So maybe she can talk to you after.
I sent slides to Shanaz.
Okay.
So what we can do, probably ask Shanaz to distribute the slides to the participants.
Okay, so Nurbano Ali, if you could just put your email address in the chat, we will forward you the slides. So that was that. Does taking statins increase the risk?
No, taking statins decreases the risk.
Decreases.
Yes,
Okay,
because
Rose, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, Rose, that was the answer to your question. Okay, statin. Okay, I would also like to know if taking statin for a long time can affect your memory, but not Alzheimer.
This I'm not to answer. I am holistic nutritionist. I'm not a medical doctor. I think it makes sense to talk to your doctor because statins have some registered side effects and some perceived side effects, which is I don't want to go there. But in the long run, they prove to reduce a risk of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and Alzheimer.
Okay, what are your thoughts on harmful health effects of canola and other vegetable oils?
Canola is not the best oil to consume. It's highly synthetic. It has pesticides in it. It's not processed well by our body because of it. Type of the monosaturated, unsaturated fats it has. There is no, I would say if you want to use it sporadically for frying, because the best thing about canola oil, it has a high smoke point. And what smoke point is, at some point the frying oil started releases this kind of vapor, and then it burns and becomes brown, right? Canola oil has the highest smoke point, so it's kind of safer for frying. But not to go to the chemistry lesson here, I would replace canola oil if possible with avocado oil or grapeseed oil. Grapeseed oil has quite low smoke point, but still higher than olive oil, and avocado oil has lots of health benefits, plus it has high smoke point.
Okay. What about alcohol, such as even moderate amounts of red wine being a carcinogen?
Yes, red wine. I'm happy. I wasn't sure that I can discuss this topic for this audience. You know what? I read so much, but rap about alcohol, and I noticed so much reactions on my body. I don't drink at all. Like full stop. I don't drink. Now, in terms of alcohol consumed in the levels which are prescribed by Canadian government, I think even that is a little bit too high. It's my personal opinion. Don't take it. Now, if you want my opinion where it stems, there was a study conducted in Australia in 90s. I don't remember exactly the year. And it was sponsored by a wine producer in Australia. The study was conducted on 8 healthy subjects, outpatients in the hospital. And the study confirmed that regular consuming, the people were consuming, I believe, 1 bottle of red wine a day, which can kill a hypo, but okay, that's my personal opinion. Anyway, the study conducted for a couple months on 8 subjects, outpatients in the hospital, generally healthy people, and they concluded after the study consuming moderate amount, 1 bottle is not moderate amount, of red wine positively affects your cardiovascular health and plaque formation in their blood vessels. Now, the key word is study on 8 subjects when there is 8 billion people on Earth, and study is sponsored by the wine producer. And from this little study, all this hype about red wine started, right? So yes, there is a resveratrol in red wine, there is resveratrol in white wine, there is resveratrol in the grape juice, and there is resveratrol in the grapes. That's why I'm saying, yes, consume moderate amount of wine, low amount of wine, or resveratrol as a supplement, or grape juice, which has the same health effects without harmful effect of the wine. So I personally do not believe in this study. All hype started from 8 healthy subjects, hospital outpatients.
Okay.
It's not reliable.
Okay. You mentioned about aluminum. So hot food placed in aluminum foil, as when you get from the restaurants, are harmful.
Yes.
About cooking in an aluminum pot. You already said that.
Yes, because what's happening, there is a chemical process called leaching when metal ions are removed from the whatever media they are into the other media where they're not supposed to be. So if, for example, you broil on aluminum foil, your food doesn't have time or opportunity to absorb enough aluminum. But if you wrap it and leave in the fridge overnight, aluminum will slowly penetrate from this foil into your food, and this is not effect you want.
I got way too many. So
Sure.
I'm gonna skip a few. Osteoporosis, are you able to comment on the relationship between dementia and oxybutynin?
No.
No, okay,
I read something about it, which is not conclusive.
okay. Studies indicate type 1 diabetics are more likely to develop dementia. Can you shed some light on how to delay the onset?
Just a second here. So there are two types of diabetes. Diabetes type 1 is insufficient insulin production. Diabetes type 2 is insulin resistance, when insulin pretty much cannot enter the cell. In both cases, there is, how to say, this is second paragraph here. Insulin affects how the signals are transmitted inside the brain. So if you have diabetes type 1 and insulin levels are not controlled well, then you have a risk of cerebral communication being disrupted, and any disruption to cerebral communication eventually can lead to dementia. If your insulin level is well controlled, then your risk of dementia is much lower. I actually have a friend who is 91 years old, who has diabetes since she was born, and all of a sudden she became interested in the subject of dementia. So she was subjected to many tests. She is very religiously controls level of her insulin, and there was no changes in her. So if disease is controlled, the risk is low.
Okay. There's quite a few wanting your slides, so I just took pictures of that. Trying to also to receive the slides. All of them are slides.
Yeah,
Everybody wants the slides, because we don't share the whole presentation, just the slides we can share. We won't share your talk.
If it's possible, can everyone, I've put it in the chat, if anyone who wants the slide presentation, please send me a text message with your email address, because I've been writing them down.
No, I just take the pictures of the thing. There's 92. There's 92 people wanting.
It's fine. They can also text me. I've put my phone number, and this way I can send, like,
faster
they can connect to Larissa through me.
Okay. Larissa, we had about 205 people. I shouldn't say people, could be more, join in to Zoom. So there could be two per connection or one. So we had at least 300, 350 people join in.
There is you have my email. I believe I shared the toll-free number, so you can call me toll-free from any place of the world. Okay. If I didn't, okay, let me see here. You can message me whenever. Yes, I have toll-free number here. Just
okay. There's another question. Yeah. There's another question saying, please talk about the impact of different types of blood pressure medications. You mentioned it, but didn't catch it. But that's
okay, so it's not in the slides because, you know, I didn't go sideways. I just tried to keep to the topic. I can, okay. The name of the study was the study was run from January 1st, 2006 to December 31st, 2018 on 57,000 older Medicare beneficiaries. And it was about blood pressure medications, yes. There are different types of blood pressure medications. Those which stimulate rather inhibit type 2 and 4 angiotensin receptors. So those which stimulate lowest risk of Alzheimer's disease by 16%. Now, if you give me the name of the medication, I can check it right now if it is stimulator or inhibitor.
Okay, this question was from iPad, so if you can rewrite that question, she can answer it.
Yeah, so if you can give me medication name, I can check it right now.
Okay, perfect. Slides, these are slides. With cooking in grapeseed oil, grapeseed oil break into trans fat, thus make it toxin?
No,
No?
well,
Okay.
any frying will break into trans fats, like any frying, right? But the idea is not to get to the smoking point, like not have a brown thing on the, like when you fry, you have brown crust, beautiful brown crust, which
Right.
like I'm salivating. It looks so appetizing and it's so good and so bad for your health. So not get your brown crust, not brown it. Actually, what I do, I blacken the food. So I put the parchment on the skillet, then I put a lot of spices and something reddish, brownish on top, and you have the appearance, you have the smell, but you don't have this crust.
I'm getting hungry.
Yes, I'm salivating.
Me too. There's a question by somebody. It says, can you please say something about Lewy body type of dementia? I know we don't have that much time, but just a brief.
Yes, you can contact me separately and we can discuss it because today's topic is mostly on Alzheimer's.
Zina, you can call her. What else? Share your phone number. You got that? Okay. Thank you. Too kind, Larissa. Thank you. You are too kind, Larissa. God bless you.
Sure.
Lots of compliments on the program. Can you please share details of Larissa? We got that. The contact information.
Larissa,
Yes.
can you post your, your business card that you sent me? Can you just put that on the screen? Share your
Oh, okay.
that one. Yeah.
You see it, right?
Yeah. Do you have a copy of just your, because it's a little unclear, the numbers?
Okay, yeah, it's
number?
1-877-549-1525.
Maybe you can type it in again. Okay, somebody put in that medication for blood pressure, and it is, the name of blood pressure meds is Coversil and Coversil Plus.
Okay, I have to, just a second. You will lose me for a moment. Okay, can you please spell it? C-O.
Oh, Coversyl.
S-Y-L.
And
No.
the same thing in plus.
No, Coversyl, no. It's not this type of blood pressure medication. So there was study only about those two, which is suppressors versus inhibitors of angiotensin 2 receptors.
Okay. Yes, you can air fry. Any comment on air fry use? Any comment on air fry use? Air
Same
fryer?
token. Same token, if you have this beautiful brown crust, it's trans fats.
Okay. Well, there's no trans fat. Thank you. Thank you,
Uh,
Larissa. Thank you for a wonderful
Yeah,
presentation.
here is the phone number, just in case. Can you see it? And I can give my email.
Yeah, perfect.
It's double I.
Okay, I think that's it. A lot of compliments.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure to talk to you guys. I know that for us in our age group, this topic is hot, like yesterday potato. But it's very interesting for me to talk about this topic. It's very interesting for you to listen to this topic. So we found each other and really appreciate it.
Okay, I do have two hands raised. Unfortunately, I can't get them. I can't see them because of that screen. I mean, you're sharing the screen. So if you could remove that, we could find those two.
Okay, so I stopped sharing. Yes.
Okay. Google Pixel or iPhone?
So I requested iPhone to unmute. They can go ahead and unmute.
iPhone?
Yeah.
Hello?
I don't see her in the videos. Maybe
It's
go to the
gone.
Google.
It was a male person's,
Yeah.
but it's gone.
Maybe you can go to Google Pixel and see
Hey,
what
Google
happens.
Pixel?
Yes, is
Hi.
Shabnam here. I just want to find out, I just heard about Q10. I do take Q10 every day, but is it good for us or is not good for us to take a Q10?
I don't know, so I give it to my husband. Okay, Q10 is very good for your cardiovascular health. Q10 was deemed good for prevention and delay of onset. Unfortunately, the study which was conducted found two things. First, level of Q10 in the blood serum of those with Alzheimer is lower than in control subject. And second, supplementation with Q10 does not affect Alzheimer. So it's good because it preserves your cardiovascular health. It's not the factor which affects Alzheimer directly. But from my standpoint, anything which epigenetically affects Alzheimer's disease is good, and cardiovascular disease is a risk factor. So you do not affect Alzheimer's disease, you affect risk factor. So it's good.
Thank you. Another thing, I drink virgin olive oil every morning, 1 spoon with a little lemon in there. And I use other olive oil for cooking, normal olive oil for cooking, and everything I use that one, the big bottle. But virgin olive oil, I drink every morning 1 spoon. So is that good?
That's actually not good. That's excellent, because we spoke about connection between liver health and brain health. Healthy liver, healthy brain. This is the excellent, absolutely amazing way to maintain your liver health. In terms of cooking on olive oil, this is not so excellent. Is virgin olive oil, especially cold press, is good when you use it as is in salads, on food. Cooking with it though, because it has quite low smoke point, may produce some carcinogens. So you want to avoid the high smoke situation, and to avoid that, it's better to use oils like avocado oil or grapeseed oil.
No, I don't use for cooking. I just only for drinking in the morning, I use the virgin olive oil. And for cooking, I buy a big bottle, the normal olive oil, big bottle for cooking. I buy for cooking. That's for frying and cooking. This is for frying and cooking.
Same token, not like it makes no sense, right? Because it has low smoke point and it can produce in the process of cooking, it can produce carcinogens. So it's safer. It would be safer to use oils with higher smoke point. Like I'm not talking about canola oil because of the
Avocado oil?
pesticides used and stuff like this, but avocado oil and grapeseed oil.
Grapeseed, yeah, I use grapeseed as well, yeah.
Yeah.
So I buy big grapeseed oil, that is good for cooking and frying and
Yes.
everything. Yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you very much. I really
You're so
enjoyed the class today. It was very nice. Thank you very much. Thanks.
My
I have an
pleasure.
another question. Is coconut oil helpful for Alzheimer's?
Okay, so coconut oil is deemed for everything. So at some point when depression, like I was going downhill and I read about coconut oil and depression, and what I was doing, I was taking 1 teaspoon of coconut oil with just pinch of salt every morning. And it seemed to be okay, but later on I realized it's not because of coconut oil, that's because of salt, because your body needs salt. Just for those signals to go back and forth, you need salt. In terms of coconut oil, there are mixed opinions about it. From one side, they say it's cardioprotective because it has those medium chain fatty acid MCFs, which are like touted as medication for everything. And from another, this is still high fat, right? And high fats are dangerous for your cardiovascular system. So I wouldn't rely on coconut oil for everything, maybe a little bit sporadically used. Sorry, and it has high smoke point, so it's nothing bad from using it sporadically, but taking it regularly will affect your waistline. It affected mine, and pretty much that will be one effect you get.
And your arteries.
And your arteries, yes, plaque formation and stuff. Yes.
I have another hand raised, Shanaz J. If you could please unmute yourself, Shanaz.
Yes, I just wanted to ask about the browning. You know, I missed it. I just came in when they were talking about the browning when cooking, and then browning.
Browning in cooking causes carcinogens, right? So this like brown taste, like don't talk about me, I'm gonna salivate. This is the best thing of cooking, right? And it's not good. And also it may be a risk factor for Alzheimer's, so it's better not to.
So all the barbecues are not really,
All the
keep away
barbecue,
from them. Yes. Okay.
yes,
Thank you.
yes.
So even in the air fryer, you shouldn't have.
No. The brown, like this, the best thing is brown crust, right? And brown
Yes.
crust is not good
Yes.
for you. So again, you can use something which I'm cheating on myself. Put a lot of spices like brown spices, red spices. Put in the parchment paper and put on the skillet. So you will have cooked. It changes flavor. It's not boiled. It changes flavor, but the brown crust doesn't form.
Thank you so much. It was a lovely presentation and we really enjoyed
My
it.
pleasure. My pleasure.
Anybody else? I think we've had it now. Thank you so much, Larissa.
You're
Beautiful,
welcome.
beautiful
Sorry.
presentation.
You're welcome.
And, you know, it was a record. Like I said, 202 connections. So
So we, by
Larissa,
the
can
way,
you share your screen again with your number? There's people
just
asking.
a
for help.
second. Just a second. Yeah. I will make it bigger.
No, that's fine. That's good.
Oops, no, it didn't work. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. My pleasure talking to you, and you have a wonderful day, and you have a wonderful health.
thank you.
Health
Thank you.
is the most important.
Hopefully we'll get you again in
Thank